Welcome back. Joining us on the show this week, we have Ramond Robinson in studio, transit officer for the county. Ramond, how's it going today?
It's going good. How are you?
We're doing great here.
Good.
Tell us about your role and responsibilities as transit officer.
So some of the roles and responsibilities that I have as a transit officer are kind of layered on top of each other. So you think transit, you think buses and people, and that's it. That's the main focus. But I think part of what I'm doing here for Anne Arundel County is to look at to establish better networks, primarily to get people from point A to point B and looking at multiple modes and systems to be able to do so. So there could be times where we have to figure out how to get cars from point A to B better, or transit from point A to B better. How do we connect, pedestrian elements to get people from point A to B better? How do we incorporate bicycles to get people from point A to B better? So transit being kind of the overall, how do you move people? And the standard for that is to determine how we establish some connections within the county. So that's going to entail talking to a lot of people, looking at a lot of the existing systems that we do have, working with planning and zoning to establish a transportation master plan that will kind of lay out the vision and the guidance and how we want to move and do things going forward. So that's kind of the short version of which is a really, really big task. But the main thing is, for the county executive, when he brought me in, he said, hey, this is what I want to focus on first, which is how do we have more of an economic development association within the county, i.e., how do we get Anne Arundel County residents to Anne Arundel County employment centers or to shopping or to all the other needs that they may have. And so that's kind of a short-sighted, immediate thing, but it's layered up under there, this connection that we want to establish for Anne Arundel County. So
and Kristen, we should mention that Ramond is a pro, okay? Seriously, we have not had no offense to our friend George Cardwell, who did a similar job for several years in planning and zoning, but Ramond has a lot of experience in running large operations. Can you tell us a little bit about where you've been before?
So, a pro is kind of a strong word.
You're a pro.
You're always learning, always learning.
We're not.
I can say it. You don't say it. I say it.
So definitely, some of my experiences, just to kind of go through it briefly, I started as an apprentice through the North Carolina Department of Transportation. A lot of people, when you talk about transportation and transit, usually there are one or two ways of how you end up there. Either you have a fondness and a love for it, or you fall into it. I was a little bit of both. So I was kind of on the line, a little bit of, hey, I like this a lot, and then a little bit of, oh man, I fell into this. All right, so in doing that, I started working in Raleigh-Durham. I worked for a regional transportation provider there, which is now Go Triangle, but at the time it used to be called Triangle Transit Authority. And so part of my position there was to kind of learn the operations from the ground up. And so that led to looking at the different capital outlets, looking at the workforce, looking at the budget as it related to the operation, which was a regional operation, and then being able to utilize what I had learned from a planning perspective to kind of design and implement services. So that was kind of my start. I was like, hey, I really like this. And so from there, I moved on to Charlotte, North Carolina, which was a bigger venue. There were more modes there. So here, where you didn't just have, van pool, ride share, and transportation demand management, but you now also had fixed guideway by the way of light rail. So that was really, really cool. Did a lot of good things there. And then from there, moved on to Savannah, Georgia, where you didn't have
one of my favorite cities.
I love that place.
You see the progression here?
He likes the East Coast.
I do.
He's mobile.
Getting bigger and bigger, yeah.
He's moving along.
All right, so in Savannah, it was a little bit different. So there wasn't as much fixed guideway there as a return to light rail, but we did have a ferry, and then we did have buses and ride share, van pool. And so it was more looking at things from a county perspective, but also having the city interpretation, very much like you have here in Anne Arundel County with the city of Annapolis. A lot of good things came out of being in Savannah, Georgia. I made a lot of good relationships. I put together a transit development plan, and this was the first one that was actually looking at things more from a business perspective, looking at what are the economics of having better mobility management as opposed to just kind of saying, hey, we'll tell the bus to go here.
Which sounds like something you're relying on now for this project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you went to?
So from there I went to, I will be remiss if I did not talk about the bike share program. So I initiated the first bike share program in the state of Georgia. And we did this through B-Cycle. And it was the first time that the transit agency was actually over the bike program. And it was about becoming more multimodal as a transportation agency. So you see that connotation of it's all about moving people, having
want that.
connections,
Yeah,
We want
that type
right.
of thing.
Yep.
So from there, I went to Alexandria, Virginia, and in Alexandria,
Love Alexandria too.
you had multiple modes, and then working with WMATA, which is, a big regional provider. So there were a lot of good things that were done there. They had bus rapid transit that was started there. The MGM Grand, while I was there, working on services to kind of help with that. Again, economic development, kind of standing out and standing strong about how you make these connections and how it's better for, everybody within the region. And the opportunity to come to Anne Arundel County just kind of appeared. And the reason that I liked this opportunity because it was more about, hey, you can actually build something and create something. And so I'm really big on that. And so when I saw this opportunity, I was like, man, you can't beat this. And so it's like, whenever you tell people, well, I'm the transit officer, I'm the person that's working in transportation for Anne Arundel County, and they're like, yeah, man, you got a big job. And I'm like, yeah, it could be looked
But
at
how
as
exciting.
it is exciting because now you're getting a chance to actually see things from the ground up. And so there's nothing better than actually seeing the product move forward. And this is going to be something that is not going to happen overnight, but there are so many different pieces that are going to be associated with it. And I think that it will have a growth that will kind of grow with the county. The county is about better business and bringing business to the county. And so you want to make sure that you have that connectability to kind of help to enforce that type of infrastructure for being what businesses want, being why businesses want to come here. So I definitely think and can see the importance in that. And so when I saw this opportunity, it's like, man, you can't turn that down. That's really cool. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, we're excited to have
And
you.
did you all coordinate your colors?
Yes, we did. I
My
called
goodness, I
Ramond
feel
and
left
said,
out. I feel left
what
out.
are you wearing today? Okay, I'll wear
We
that
all have
too.
black pants. Weird. We never do that.
So you haven't been on board that long. I think we said just over 90 days.
Yeah, just over 90 days.
If you could give us an assessment about how mobility is currently in the county.
Where do we stand now?
Yeah.
So I think that there are a lot of positives within the county to be able to work off of. Again, it's all about how do you make connectivity? How do you leverage a lot of the synergies that you have from transportation bodies in other counties in some cases, or just from a regional perspective. So, for transit, just to kind of focus on that, you have the Regional Transit Administration of Central Maryland, or Regional Transit Agency of Central Maryland. You have Annapolis Transit, you have Maryland Transit Administration. So all of these different transportation bodies are funneling into Anne Arundel County. So they have services that are coming in, services that are going out. So the question is, how do we look at this and make it so that it's seamless and it's going to be something that's easily understandable for the residents and that it's going to the places that it needs to get to? Again, the main focus is we want to create this synergy around the connectability of the county. And one of the things that you start with is how do you get people from where they are to the needs that they have.
Yes.
So there's that.
And again, he's being modest because when Ramond started, he came into a meeting with the county executive, and we have a map, okay, of all the transit modes in the county executive's office. This map was made by hand. Literally, Margaret and planning and zoning with pen and paper drew this map because the county did not have a comprehensive map of all the transit modes where you could sit back and look at it and literally see where the gaps were. So it was almost, we were a little embarrassed to show that to Ramond. So part of, that just should, we have a long way to go. Let's be honest about it. We have a long way to go. And
Also, we get the best of the best.
And Ramond is up to it, and he's got a lot of stuff going on, so it's gonna be a lot better.
Yeah, I definitely. There are some things that need to happen, but I think that the one positive is that you have a willing administration, and an administration that, from what I understand, they understand that these gaps exist and they're prevalent, and so you put yourself in a position to have the resources to address these things, or at least bring these information points to you so that you can start to address these things. And I think that that's a good thing. And there are plans that are in place. You speak of George Caldwell. George Caldwell did a marvelous job. I've talked to George. I've been able to talk to him just about different things, and he's been kind of able to point me in the right direction. So I think that there's a lot of things that are in place. What I hope to do is to kind of pull it all together And then from pulling it all together, start to layer on top of it what can be done. What are some things that can kind of help? And again, grow with the way that the county is trying to grow. And that doesn't mean it's got to grow real fast, because none of this is going to happen overnight. Right?
Of course.
You're not going to put a subway
Absolutely.
Now I imagine.
Just kidding, folks. Just kidding. There's no subway, okay?
I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if this would fall into your realm or not, but we've talked before about the opening of boatways and paths. Would that also fall and be something that you'd get to? Is water transportation?
We need a ferry.
So, I mean, as we are looking at plans and we're looking at different elements of mobility, that'll definitely be something that will be in the wheelhouse of transportation.
That's just something neat to play with, too.
I mean, that's definitely something that is a benefactor. Again, coming from Savannah, where we did have a ferry service.
Right.
Primarily, the purpose of the ferry service was there was Hutchinson Island, and you kind of cross Hutchinson Island where the hotels were, and so there was a real need to have this service that we're basically for tourism.
Yeah.
So, and those are the type of economic development opportunities that you then start to kind of look at, and all being stemming from transportation, or mobility, or connectability. Right?
Yeah, so I like it.
Well, we've been working together quite a bit, and it's been a real pleasure so far. And one of the things I liked working with you on is, I'm going to bring it up again, University of Maryland, PALS. PALS. We have some PALS projects that you've been working on. Tell us a little bit about what we're doing with the students there.
So one of the great things is you talked about the map. So we were able to kind of talk to the students to say, hey, these are some things that we would like to kind of see in a map. The first thing would be to include all the modes that are prevalent to the county. The other thing would be to kind of look at some of the demographic overlays. Where are people? Where are certain people located? How do we know to connect certain populations of people to Anne Arundel County jobs? Where are some of these employment centers? So just kind of a map of duality. Show us where it is, and so we can actually
an electronic map, no crayons, no crayons.
And so we can use that, and we can layer that, and you can use that to kind of help us as we move forward. And then I think some of the projects that we're looking at working with PALS on in the next semester is, now that we've kind of identified where the mobility areas are, now we can try and look at where some of the corridors within the county is. So, Route 2 would be something, for example. It could be that Route 2 is one of those areas where light rail might not be an ideal situation, but, bus rapid transit or bus enhanced services or something like that, where you have more passenger amenities, different types of buses, that type of thing, because those are the types of things that actually help to spur development, or development will kind of tell you, hey, based on where this is, we might need enhanced transportation service, or we might need additional lanes because, you're going to have an inflow of more traffic and the levels of service are going to change and be different. Those are those connectability elements. And then Route 2 kind of going up into the airport. How do we make those connections? How do we get connections from Annapolis to the airport? How do we get from Anne Arundel County, from the Annapolis or surrounding, to the airport or Maryland Live? How do we make those connections? And so those are some of the things that we're kind of going to get the kids to kind of look at for us. Just give them some simple inputs and say, okay, we'll look at this, and tell us what you think, and then we kind of layer that on some of the plans that we already have. And then I think, again, you get a benefit for the kids, because I'm all about the interning and Scholastic, because that's how I was able to make it through, but you also get a benefit for the county as well. So I think that's a great working relationship. It was something that was done before I got here. I'm glad that it's in place, and so
we'll put them to work.
Some good things.
Get them work.
Well, if I'm taking transit for the first time, what's a good resource for me to use as far as getting more acclimated with routes, times, et cetera?
So there are probably a couple of different resources that you could use. If this is your first time, what I would tell you to do is to go to www.mdtrip.org.
Easy enough.
And what that will do is, because, again, remember, we have so many different variations of service within the county, that will kind of give you more of a trip planning perspective. And so depending on where
point
you're
A
trying
to point B.
depending on where you're trying to get to, you can have that to map out your trip. In addition to that, you can always use Google. Google is also a good resource if you're trying to get from point A to point B. There's a transit section. You hit the little button, and it tells you, it'll lay out your trip for you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Absolutely. I've seen this. I love Google.
Yeah, and then you can always go to the county's website as well, because we do have transit and transportation elements on the county's website.
Follow updates on that with you there. And
We got a
also
good
we'll have
app.
you.
We got a good app on there. You can
And an
download.
app too.
Yes.
And we'll have to have you back on whenever you've got some more updates for us. But it was such a pleasure having you in the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for all the good work that you're doing. And yes, please come back soon. I like talking about this. We'll be right back with more Week in Review right after this. Don't go anywhere.